It is June 11th, and one of the most powerful members of the Eternals has now arrived in Marvel Snap. That's right, the mystifying Sersi is now at our disposal. Her powers let her transmute matter, and her card text perfectly encapsulates those abilities. Let's take a look real quick. At 5 cost, 7 power, her on reveal lets her transform other cards at her location into random cards that cost 1 more, if able. Now this is gonna allow you to do some really unique, wacky, and crazy stuff in your games. You will have no idea what Sersi is going to transform your cards into, except whatever cost of card is one above the one she's changing. So you can go, okay, she's changing a 3 cost card. Here's the entire pool of 4 cost cards. Which one could it be? Now, realistically, there is one unholy trio that she is going to just love hanging out with, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But in this week's scouting report, we're gonna look at 6 different lists, and we're adding in a little extra because 3 of them are very similar with some slight variations for personal preference, so we'll look at all of those 3 at once. But if you like a bit of RNG, if you like a little bit of the chaos in your games, Sersi is probably going to be a card for you, especially if you're a junk enjoyer as well. So without further ado, so on day 1, we ended up with not 1, not 2, but 3 different versions of damn near the same deck, all using that unholy trinity that I mentioned earlier of the Hood, the Annihilus, and the Sentry. Now we're going to dive in a little bit more detail. Let's start out with the list by Woody. That's this one right here on the screen now. If you've played a similar list before, you know how the engine runs. We're putting negative stuff on the board, we're sending it over to our opponent, and now we have the additional option of using Sersi to clear off that void or the -3 Hood and turn them into something useful on our side of the board instead of clogging up the opponent's side. The Mysterio is really nice because you immediately get a 3 cost Mockingbird. You can also later use the Yellow Jacket to turn a Mysterio clone into a -1 if you are going to go the Annihilus route and send it over. Yellow Jacket's really nice with the Pixie, obviously. The spread of costs here is really nice for keeping your opponent guessing, having no idea if you ended up with a 6 cost Mysterio, but then a 2 cost Red Hulk. Who knows? Chaos ensues, but that's the whole point of Pixie. And then even with Pixie and White Widow, or even one of the Mysterio clones, they're still great targets for your Sersi later on. So you use the small cards, you get the benefit of their effect, and then when you don't need them anymore, you just Sersi them into something bigger. Or you save the Sersi for some of your negative stuff if you don't have the Annihilus. You see where I'm going, right? But if we pop over to the list that Jeff Hoogland put together, we've got this one from Woody, this one from Jeff. We can see the changes now. We're adding in a little bit more disruption from the Spider-Ham and the Iceman and the Red Guardian. So some additional tools to affect our enemies in a negative way. We've still got the Unholy package there. We've got Jeff for a little bit of flexibility. He's Jeff, he's just a good card, you know? And then still a big fat Red Hulk at the end if you need it. And then we look at the third list and how the variations change one more time. This one from KingVenom. And what we've done here is we've added in a Brood. And Brood is kind of spicy in this list because then it gives you 3 costs that you could turn into 4 costs with just 1 Sersi. So Brood and Sersi alone could hold down 1 lane. Now you do run the risk that you hit some unsavory 4 costs. I think Atuma is the only real one that comes to mind where all of a sudden he'll just disappear on you. But outside of that, there's a lot of really good 4 cost hits for you, so it could be a really good combo. I would suspect that in the next coming few days to a week, you're probably going to see a decent amount of lists like these. A lot of the Annihilus combo-centric stuff with the Sersi splash in now for some variation. That slot could also, if you don't have Sersi, easily be Lady Deathstrike. So if these lists look fun for you, and you have Lady Deathstrike and you didn't get Sersi, you can still run these for sure. Pixie is a bit of a controversial card. There's a lot of people who are not big fans of Pixie. They often feel like it just backfires on you or it's not useful. You do run the Mobius M Mobius so that any of your cards that went up in cost don't. They stay right at their original cost, so you do have that option. But if you turn Mobius into a 6 cost, you obviously can't play him. So Pixie is by discretion, but I do think that this deck list, or these 3 versions of this deck list, do benefit highly from the surprise factor. Your win rate might not be through the roof, but if you are snapping correctly when you know that you've got really good Pixie hits and really big surprises that you can throw down like a 0 cost red Hulk, you snap, you get good cube value. So if you're the kind of player where you're okay maximizing your cubes on fewer wins, Pixie might be right. As always, these deck lists are going to be down below in the description, so if you like any of them, feel free to copy and paste them and have a good old time. So we are finally taking a step away from that unholy trinity, and we're taking a look at a unique brew from JJRolk. This one looks so fun. So what we're doing is we're taking the Psylocke, the Zabu, or the Electro, and we're ramping a bit. So hopefully we can get an early Wong or a Jubilee, the 4 cost cards, out a turn early. And those are going to be our targets for Sersi or Blink. We're using the cards that have a cool effect like Jubilee, Shuri, White Tiger, and then we get rid of them with Blink or with Sersi. So we get the full value of their effect, but we don't have to worry about using one of our 12 spaces on the board for just 1 power on one of those cards. It's really quite brilliant, and it's super exciting to see play out. The Wong can lead to some interesting stuff where then the cards transform twice. So if the card that it gets transformed into has an on reveal, the on reveal goes off, then the card changes again. There's some just wacky stuff that can really happen. But I really like not worrying so much about clogging the opponent or all of that. You're just playing your cards, you're getting value, you're gonna manage to get the infinite down, or you could even just secure one entire lane with Shuri, Float, Infinite. Now, is that going to be the route that you should take all the time? Probably not, but you never know. I really like even the casual option of playing Electro on 3, and then on 4, you're going to have 5 energy, where you could play the Sersi on the Electro. You change it into a random 4 cost, and then you have the extra energy and the freedom to play multiple cards, because even then, on turn, what would that be, 5 now, if you play Wong into Zabu, you just made your Shuri and your Jubilee dirt cheap. You got options. I like it. There is the added bonus that this list is a little bit more accessible to lower collection level players. There's a higher likelihood that you'll have all of these cards, assuming you decide to pick up Sersi, than some of the other lists that we might look at. So that to me gives it another extra star. But whenever I do manage to get Sersi myself, this is definitely one of the lists that I will be trying out. Quick aside, I have goals to level up these scouting reports and add in some additional gameplay clips so that you can see some of these decks in action. If you think that's a good idea and you'd like to see it, give me a like on the video, hit subscribe on the channel. All that stuff really helps me out. It gives me the encouragement and the push to keep making these videos even better. Let's get back at it. I've got 2 more lists for you, and this one is by Dera. This one seems great again. Another option not using all of those negative power cards and instead just trying to pull off really cool combos. One of the factors that I do really love here, and some people might hate, is the Sandman. I think it's really a great tech card in this current meta. There's a lot of decks that like to play a lot of cards, and Sandman shuts that down. What's really cool too is there are multiple ways to play Sandman turn early on 4 and then reactivate it on 5 with an Odin and keep them shut out from playing multiple cards for most of the game. Again, we're giving ourselves high impact cards that we don't care about Cerseing or blinking away later. Jubilee, Psylocke, Electro, even Baron Zemo can get sent back into the deck or transformed into a 4 cost. Either way is probably fine. Dr. Doom being 15 power, and then when you do reactivate him potentially with either an Absorbing Man or an Odin, you're getting another 10 power sent out to the side lanes. I mean, overall, this seems like a pretty solid deck that might be surprisingly consistent. Now, Dera was streaming this list earlier, so we could always go back through the VOD if we want to see some gameplay, but from what I was watching, it was going well. I don't think there's too many other surprise mechanics that you really need to worry about. I mean, I guess if you Jubilee down a Dr. Doom, you keep in mind that you can still Sersi that lane and turn Doom into Death, which is really nice. Death is the only card that your 6-cost cards are going to be able to transform up into, till we get Erisham later, but for now it's Death. But even that is big fat value. You'll love to see it. So if this one seems a little bit more up your speed too, again, just another reminder down in the description below. And last but not least, we've got a deck list from Eva. And I called this one the Sersi Suprise because I think that there's some surprise factors in it. I think there's some things that people won't expect to see coming. Shang-Chi, War Machine. The Mockingbird is always great value to just with Mysterio down, or even the Mysterio and the Demon from the hood. A 2/3 cost Mockingbird, bop. Always great to have. The Nocturne gives you location control. Ebony Maw, who's ready for the 1/7 Ebony Maw? You either play it down on curb before turn 3, or you manage to War Machine and you play it later. I like this list. You've still got 2 options to deal with the -3 power from the hood and the -8 power from Sentry. You got the Annihilus and you have Sersi. It's great to have options. Hope Summer's letting you cheat out extra energy. Never mad about that, right? I don't know, y'all. I could see this deck performing very well. And now, even if you do run into Professor X, you got the War Machine. You run into Hela, you have Shang-Chi. There's options for a little bit of everything. Even against Hela, having that clog factor makes sure that you know one lane, you don't have to worry about too much stuff spawning there, and another one, you punch it in the face. Hopefully you've thrown priority properly. I do really love actually seeing multiple lists using Mysterio to discount a Mockingbird and then turn the Mysterio clones that would be 0 power into something better with Sersi. I like that. I think it's fun. Now, I'll be transparent with you here. This one does, as you see in the card details, run a lot of Series 5 cards, so it could be out of reach, so that's why we left it for the end here. But if you're a player who likes to collect as many cards as you can, if you spend a little bit on the game so that you can stay collection complete, and you have these tools, give it a shot. It seems like it might perform exceptionally well. Well, there you have it, folks. 6 Sersi lists in just about 10 minutes. And just as an off-topic reminder, Twitch drops are happening right now. If you haven't picked up your Twitch drops and made sure that you got your Pride Month, Angela and Sarah, come swing by my Twitch tomorrow and Friday. I'll be live for a good chunk of the middle of the day. I'm on Eastern time. I'm usually live from about 1 p.m. till about 6-7 p.m., somewhere in that time frame. I'd love for you to come hang out, check out the stream, and get yourself some drops. But either way, if you made it this far in the video, as always, I love you, and I'll see you on the next one.